Once again, we're going to talk about Armenia and Azerbaijan because we have to ask the question, what is happening on the Armenia-Azerbaijan border? Last week, Armenia claimed that Azerbaijani forces had crossed 3.5 kilometers into the Republic of Armenia. The Prime Minister of Armenia, Nikol Pashinyan, called it a, quote, invasion and violation of Armenia's territorial integrity and sovereignty. Azerbaijan disagreed and countered by stating that its border troops were deployed on the Azerbaijani side of the border, calling for a peaceful resolution of the matter. Armenian Prime Minister Pashinyan called on Russia and its other allies in the Collective Security Treaty Organization, CSTO, which is an anti-NATO military alliance, to intervene militarily and come to Armenia's help against Azerbaijan. Let's analyze deeper what has transpired. Last fall, as a result of the 44-day war with Armenia, Azerbaijan liberated its territories from Armenia's 30-year-long occupation. In the early 1990s, Armenia, supported by Russia, invaded and ethnically cleansed 20% of Azerbaijan's sovereign national territory. Nearly 800,000 Azerbaijanis were forcibly displaced from the occupied territories. The United Nations Security Council condemned this invasion, occupation, and ethnic cleansing with 4 separate resolutions. Armenia ignored the resolutions and kept the territories under occupation. So last fall, Azerbaijan not only liberated around 10,000 square kilometers of its sovereign territory, it also restored its sovereign state border with Armenia that had been under occupation for 30 years. The matter is that for all these 3 decades, this internationally recognized border between Armenia and Azerbaijan was treated by Armenia as its own internal area, because the occupied territories of Azerbaijan were de facto annexed to the Republic of Armenia. The pastures on the Azerbaijani side of the border were also used by Armenians for their sheep during these 3 decades of occupation. Due to the occupation, there was no delimitation and demarcation of the Armenia-Azerbaijan state border after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Hence, after last fall's war, Azerbaijan started direct negotiations with Armenia at the level of both countries' border services to demarcate the border. Azerbaijan announced that for the demarcation of the border, Soviet maps are to be used, which are usually used to demarcate the state borders between all post-Soviet republics. That's the crux of this border dispute. Azerbaijan claims, based on these maps, that the area, especially the lake called Sevlik, or Black Lake, is located within the Republic of Azerbaijan. Armenia naturally disagrees. Usually such disagreements are tackled within the framework of intergovernmental commissions. Russia has offered its good offices to set up such a commission. So why did the Armenian leadership consider it to be clever to internationalize the border dispute? One can state with absolute certainty that the upcoming parliamentary elections in Armenia play an important role in Prime Minister Pashinyan's decision to present the border dispute as another major international catastrophe and asks for international help from the international community, especially Russia and its other military bloc allies. He and his supporters definitely hope that if the situation is resolved in Armenia's favor, he will look as an uncompromising and tough statesman, which will help him remain in power. What was the international reaction to Armenia's calls? First, Russia, the major ally of Armenia. Armenia hosts 5,000 Russian troops on its soil, which are guarding Armenia's borders. Russia has called both sides to peacefully resolve the matter. As for other military treaty allies of Armenia within the CSTO, there has not been much support for Armenia's pleas. The biggest support came from France. The president of France, Emmanuel Macron, immediately issued a statement, both in French, Armenian, and English, in support of Armenia, without even talking to the Azerbaijani side and trying to learn the Azerbaijani perspective. Since last year's war, President Macron has become the most pro-Armenian president in the history of France. Although the previous French presidents were also known to have pro-Armenian proclivities due to the 500,000 strong and wealthy Armenian diaspora of people who live in France, they constantly try to hide it by attempting to look neutral due to France's role as a mediator in the Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict. But President Macron raised the nation's pro-Armenianism to a new level, openly supporting Armenia over Azerbaijan, despite Azerbaijan being the largest trade partner of France in the South Caucasus. There, French companies have invested billions of dollars in investments. French Senate and National Assembly went even as far as recognizing the illegal regime called the Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh, quote unquote, that Armenia set up after invading Azerbaijan in the early 1990s. No nation has recognized this regime. Why are we seeing such a biased position from President Macron and his parliament? Observers and connoisseurs of French politics link it with rising Islamophobia and Turkophobia in France during the past few years. Much of President Macron's power base is in favor of France's tough stance against Turkey and other Muslim nations. These Islamophobic and Turkophobic trends will continue to rise and strengthen in France and affect its foreign policy in light of domestic tensions. The reaction from the United States was more measured and balanced. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan talked to leaders of both Armenia and Azerbaijan, welcoming their, quote, commitment to peaceful resolution of border tensions through dialogue and conveying U.S. support for regional reconciliation, unquote. Despite a few exceptions, by and large, Armenia has failed to garner regional and international support for its efforts to internationalize the border dispute. Armenia's Ministry of Defense is now threatening Azerbaijan with, quote, military measures, unquote, if the border situation is not resolved. They also continue to urge Russia and allies to intervene. Question: is determination by a country that a lake is 50% within its border, or 20%, worth taking and invoking a mutual defense treaty to draw in a massive army to fight the country trying to decide what percentage belongs to it? Or are sheep entitled to pasture in another country because it is convenient for the Armenians that own them to have them eat Azerbaijani pasture for free across a border that has never been demarcated? Never. Is free grass a rationale for a country to go to war? What is also interesting is the fact that for the first time in 30 years, Armenian officials speak about the concepts of territorial integrity and inviolability of sovereign borders. It would be quite normal had it not come from a country that trampled on these very important principles of international law for 30 years, when Armenia violated Azerbaijan's territorial integrity and sovereignty by invading the region of Karabakh and keeping it under occupation. Armenia continues to show utter disregard for Azerbaijan's territorial integrity by constantly calling for the, quote, independence of Karabakh or, quote, liberation of territories it lost last fall, territories that are considered by all part of Azerbaijan under international law. As long as there is no peace treaty between Armenia and Azerbaijan based on mutual recognition of each other's territorial integrity, sustainable peace will be hard to come by. That is what we consider to be a conundrum. We, Americans, ask for a settlement of the issues peacefully, quietly, and diplomatically. When that happens, that Armenia and Azerbaijan can proceed with making the South Caucasus a prosperous place. I want to thank you for being there. This is Raul Lowry Contreras. This is the Contreras Report International Edition, and we will return shortly with another post. And for you to make sure that you are notified, please subscribe on YouTube or on Facebook, and you will be notified when we make a new post. So subscribe. If you have any comments or questions, our address will pop up on the screen in a minute. You can email me. I will answer your emails. Thank you for being there. This is Raul Lowry Contreras.